Brother is a designated jerk. I don't say that in any tacky way. Good man, hardworking, supports the family, but lives in New Orleans, which is 11 hours from where my family and my father live. So even though he's in a nursing home now, I'm the one. And if I'm out of town, I'll get away with that 2 days. If I'm out of town 3 days, I'm likely to get the call, And then he's so psychotic sometimes that the nurses are kind of saying, when are you going to be back? And I thought that would stop when he went in a care facility, but some of those ties are long built, and the pathology's not just on their end or his end. Some of it's my pathology. I think we have to take a look at those things sometime and kind of say, honey, I know you don't want to go to the adult daycare center, but I need Tuesdays off. And we'll come back to that Tuesdays off thing in a little bit when we talk about some of the choices instead of dwelling on the challenges. Caregiving, in my experience with patients and in myself, is also a noble excuse. One day when my father was saner, I mentioned to somebody, he heard me on the cell saying that I couldn't come that next day because he had an appointment with his doctor. And he said, what was that about? I said, well, I needed to move my mammogram. And he said, do you have any idea how often you use me as an excuse? Nobody wants to have a mammogram. Come on, nobody wants to go to the dentist. When he does, I don't know what I'm going to use, but I'll have to find something. So there's a lot of pathology in that, putting things off, to take care of ourselves, that you have to really learn to think about in a new way. The third thing I would ask you caregivers is and some of this is the part of the shared blame would go to those of you who are the care recipients. I would ask many of the families that I call on, finally, what rainy day are you saving for? Now, I'm not talking about people who are destitute. Usually the people who see me because they're paying out of pocket. It's not a Medicare, a compensated program. It's a 1 or 2 appointment consult to kind of say, but it's like a life coach for old people with Parkinson's, So it is like you hear about professional coaches, for people in midlife with their careers. So they're meeting with me once or twice as a family, to kind of say, where do we need to go from here? What do you think? Do we need a new doctor? Do we need a new place to live? Can we do something in the environment that'll prevent some falls? So it's that kind of thing. So they have a little money, or they would not be paying consultants by the hour, to help with their health care decisions. But a lot of these people aren't people who just read about the depression or know about it. They were young children. Some of you know what I'm talking about. They remember the depression before World War II, and they remember saving. And these are the folks that are out there still washing the foil after every use of aluminum foil over a dish. They're washing out the Ziploc bags and draining them in the sink. They're people who don't pay a housekeeper to come even once a month or once every 2 weeks because, well, Reuben and I, we can still do that. I can do it, and they're people trying to, that's you, ma'am, isn't it? I see you laughing there on the front row. They're not paying anybody to do the yard because he still feels like God's calling him to get out and mow at 2 o'clock with 105 degrees in July, and you can't, and you know what they're saving money for? Now, what would be the smart thing? What kind of rain, though? Rainy day. Some of them are worried they're going to be like my father, who lived 10 years longer than their money lasted. And they don't want to be Medicaid, and they don't want to be a burden to kids. Some of them is a very noble reason why they're penny pinching. But most of my clients, guess what they're saving for? Their children. I'm sorry we're being taped, but I think I'll say this anyway. Let's be blunt with each other. I don't care how smart your kids are or how old they are. They will blow through that money in 6 to 8 months maximum. You know they will. So, go ahead and get somebody to mow the yard. Now, what I was going to say, I'm kind of starting to talk about coping mechanisms here. In my slide, I think this is Freudian because I typed these myself. It says, please pass the gin and tonic. Well, I was going to put in parenthesis on, please pass on the gin and tonic. Do not over-imbibe. It's a coping mechanism. But I must have been into a gin and tonic when I did this slide because obviously I failed to put one of the key things. And by the time I noticed it, I was already reviewing slides out in the lobby this morning, so I just decided to defend myself to the group. So what do you do as you're making choices about how to preserve your own sanity and your own health? First of all, I think you have to do a ruthless analysis of what you can and can't do. And I'm going to recommend 2 books to y'all. One is for everybody. It's Michele Tagliotti's, and before you just agonize writing that down, he's a neurologist at NYU in New York, Italian, needless to say. But Tagliotti has done the Parkinson's for Dummies book. And you can get it, on Amazon or anywhere that you buy your books. It's a very good book. And the second one is it's a book I co-authored with Maria Myers. It's about family caregiving. A lot of the real physical things, how-tos, almost like a nurse's aid manual for family caregiving. And the Parkinson edition is out now. And it's available. You can get it. I didn't want to ship books here and it always feels like money changing in the temple, when I'm taking $20 for people for books between speaking engagements or something. So I didn't do that. But that book is very good at helping people sort of say, can I care for my mom at the house? Can my family put up with this? How to inventories as to say what you can and can't do. If you're an adult child, that question will come up. Few of us would move away, like across the country, when mom and dad are already sick and a mess. But how many of us could move back, to home base when they get in a mess? That's a whole different level of sacrifice and question. So you have to think through with your immediate family and responsibility, what's doable for you in y'all's situation and what is not. Can you handle the finances? What would have to be said? What kind of conversation would have to be involved for them to let you handle their finances? That's a whole different issue. But important. Many of us, even I had a guy who was at his legal conference. He's 70-something, has Parkinson's. His wife has Alzheimer's, so he's really her caregiver. He's the tough one of the duo. But he had 2 daughters, and he literally could not name either one of them as power of attorney. And we walked out of the room, and I said, I don't understand. I said, are there problems with drugs or alcohol? Or, people don't share those things quickly with you. So I thought there must be some big obstacle. And he said, no, I just don't think they're mature enough yet or are able to handle it. I just don't think they have the, this was not a world-class estate. It was maybe $500,000 total net worth. It was good money, but not huge money. And I said, well, how old are your daughters? Well, one was 53 and one was 47. But, we don't ever think our kids are quite ready for the real world. So sometimes those discussions are difficult and necessary. What about the heavy lifting? Would your care recipient be the person that outweighs you 50 pounds? How would you compensate for that? Who would you have to hire to help? What about toileting? And when it came down to me and mine, now, I shouldn't share this on tape either, but I'm a person, I don't know why I chose nursing as a profession, except when I was of that age to be choosing, women were all teachers, nurses, or secretaries. That was the spectrum of choice there, and nursing looked good to me at the time. It has been good to me, but I knew right away that I wasn't going to be great in the hospital because bad sounds and bad smells make me throw up. So this was even a problem with young children, like my husband. It was a shock to him that he became the diaper guy, because I'm saying, oh, I can't do that, like you think of Archie Bunker. So I knew it was a strange, professional match to be in nursing. But that has persisted just enough with me, even into midlife and beyond, to say, I don't think I can do that. Once somebody doesn't have control of bowels and bladder, I don't need to be the primary one anymore. And I'm making light of that, but that is the straw that breaks many backs in the families of when the family can take care. And many patients, if they have neurological problems of that magnitude, it's really easier sometimes to let a stranger or a paid assistant help you with such intimate things than to feel like you're burdening a family member. It's particularly awkward when it's adult child, when it's opposite gender child is particularly difficult. We can do things often for our spouses that it's harder to do for a parent. So I think you have to research. I took a lot of time talking on this particular slide, but you have to research all the options before you need it. It's so helpful to think through. Just because you think it through doesn't mean something bad's going to happen. So you have to do this when you're not sort of where the forest is not, blocking the view of the trees, or the trees are blocking the view of the forest. It is okay to plan for soul survivorship.